Rumors are starting to swirl around the Cleveland Browns, and this one could completely change their offense. Reports suggest the team may pursue six-time Pro Bowler Mike Evans. But the real question is Cleveland actually close to landing a superstar, or is something bigger happening behind the scenes? The conversation around the Cleveland Browns offense didn't start with trade rumors or free agency headlines. It started with frustration. Over the past season, Cleveland's passing game struggled to find consistency, and one of the biggest issues quietly growing inside the fanbase was the wide receiver room. Week after week, the offense showed flashes of potential, but those flashes rarely turned into sustained production. And a lot of the criticism centered on the same question: who is the true number one receiver in Cleveland? Right now, that answer feels unclear. The Browns have talented players at the position, but none have fully taken control of the role the way elite offense. While Jeudy has shown moments of skill and route-running ability, his time in Cleveland hasn't completely silenced the criticism. Some fans have openly questioned whether the Browns are getting the reliability they expected when he joined the roster. Drops, missed opportunities, and inconsistent chemistry with the quarterback have occasionally fueled that debate. It's not that Cleveland lacks talent, it's that the offense hasn't had a receiver who consistently demands defensive attention. And in the NFL, that kind of player changes everything. A true WR1 forces defenses to adjust their coverage, creates space for other receivers, and gives the quarterback a dependable target when plays break down. Without that presence, offensive coordinators often struggle to keep defenses guessing. That's exactly why the Browns' situation has started attracting more attention. The team is entering a phase where the offense needs to take a clear step forward, especially with a young quarterback like Shedeur Sanders potentially becoming the centerpiece of the system. Young quarterbacks often develop faster when they have an experienced receiver they can trust, someone who knows how to find open space, win contested catches, and handle pressure moments. Right now, Cleveland doesn't clearly have that veteran anchor. Instead, the receiver room feels more like a collection of complementary pieces than a defined hierarchy, some that elite wide receivers often bring to an offense. And that's where the conversation starts shifting. Because once teams recognize they're missing that kind of presence, the front office usually begins exploring options. Trades, free agency, and veteran acquisitions suddenly become part of the strategy. For Cleveland, the search for that missing piece may already be underway. And if recent reports are even partially true, the Browns might be targeting one of the most consistent wide receivers the league has seen in over a decade. But that possibility didn't appear out of nowhere. In fact, the connection behind the rumors goes back several years, and it involves someone already inside Cleveland's building. Once rumors began circulating that the Cleveland Browns could pursue Mike Evans, many fans immediately asked the same question: why Cleveland? At first glance, the connection might seem surprising. Evans has spent his entire career with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, building a reputation as one of the most consistent wide receivers of the modern era. For more than a decade, he has been a centerpiece of Tampa Bay's offense, producing year after year regardless of who was under center. So when reports suggested the Browns might enter the picture, it caught a lot of people off guard. But when you look a little closer, a very specific connection starts to explain why this rumor is gaining traction. That connection is Todd Monken. Before becoming part of Cleveland's leadership, Monken spent time with the Buccaneers as their offensive coordinator. During that stretch, he worked directly with Evans and helped shape the offensive system that allowed the star receiver to thrive. From 2016 through 2018, Evans delivered some of the most productive seasons of his career while Monken was involved in the offense. During that span, he continued his streak of 1,000-yard receiving seasons, a level of consistency that few players in NFL history have matched. More importantly, Monken's system leaned heavily on the strengths that make Evans such a dangerous weapon. Evans isn't just another wide receiver running routes across the middle of the field. At 6'5", he brings a rare physical advantage that allows quarterbacks to trust him in contested situations. Deep passes, red zone fades, and sideline throws become much easier when a receiver can outmuscle defensive backs and win jump ball battles. Munkin understood that dynamic and designed plays that allowed Evans to dominate those matchups. That shared history matters, especially in the world of NFL free agency. When veteran players consider new teams, they often look for familiarity, coaches who understand their style, systems they've already succeeded in, and environments where they believe they can continue producing at a high level. For Evans, Munkin represents exactly that kind of familiarity. Of course, none of this guarantees anything. Free agency is unpredictable, and multiple teams are almost always interested in a player with Evans' resume. Still, when a star receiver has already thrived under a specific coach, speculation naturally grows if that coach resurfaces elsewhere. And that's exactly what's happening now. Because if the Browns really are exploring the possibility of bringing Evans to Cleveland, the Munkin connection might be the reason in him to begin with. To understand why the rumors around Mike Evans are generating so much attention, you have to look at the level of consistency he has maintained throughout his career. In the NFL, wide receiver production often fluctuates. Injuries happen, quarterbacks change, offensive systems evolve, even elite players occasionally experience seasons where their numbers dip. But Evans has managed to do something very few players in league history have accomplished. From the moment he entered the NFL, he has recorded over 1,000 receiving yards in every single season of his career. That streak now stretches over a decade, an extraordinary level of reliability in one of football's most demanding positions. In fact, that achievement places Evans in extremely rare company, his streak of consecutive 1-0-yard seasons to start a career ties the legendary Jerry Rice, widely considered one of the greatest players the sport has ever seen. Just being mentioned alongside Rice in any statistical category remained remarkably steady. One of the defining moments of his career came when he helped Tampa Bay capture a championship alongside Tom Brady during the 2020 season. That Super Bowl run not only elevated Evans' reputation, but also confirmed something many analysts had believed for years: he could perform at the highest level when the stakes were biggest. Beyond championships and yardage totals, Evans' physical traits have also made him one of the most difficult receivers to defend. Standing at roughly 6'5" and over 230 pounds, he brings a rare combination of size, reach, and body control. Defensive backs often struggle to match his strength in contested catches, especially in the red zone where space becomes limited and physicality matters most. That's why Evans has consistently ranked among the league leaders in receiving touchdowns. Quarterbacks trust him in tight windows because he has repeatedly proven he can win those battles. Throw the ball high, let him go up and get it. It's a strategy that has worked for years. For teams searching for offensive stability, that kind of reliability is incredibly valuable. You're not just signing a talented receiver, you're bringing in a player with a decade-long track record of production. Which explains why, if Evans truly reaches the open market, multiple franchises are expected to show interest. And if the Browns are indeed one of those teams, they wouldn't just be adding another piece to the offense. They'd be adding one of the most dependable receivers the league has seen in modern football. For years, Mike Evans has been one of the most stable stars in the league. Since entering the NFL with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, he has rarely been part of trade rumors or contract drama. Evans built his reputation in Tampa as a franchise cornerstone, a player the organization could rely on year after year. But this offseason feels different. For the first time in a long time, Evans' future with the Buccaneers isn't completely guaranteed. As he approaches free agency, the possibility, even if it's small, that he could explore offers from other teams has started to create serious buzz around the league. Whenever a player with Evans' resume becomes available, even temporarily, teams immediately start paying attention. We're talking about a 6-time Pro Bowler, a Super Bowl champion, and one of the most consistent wide receivers in modern NFL history. Players with that kind of track record rarely hit the open market, and when they do, multiple organizations typically begin exploring whether they can make a deal work. Reports suggest that several teams could be interested if Evans officially reaches free agency. The competition for a receiver of his caliber would almost certainly be intense. And that's where the Cleveland Browns quietly enter the conversation. Cleveland's offensive situation makes them one of the teams that could realistically consider making a serious offer. The Browns have been searching for a reliable, veteran presence in their wide receiver room, someone who can immediately command attention from opposing defenses. Adding Evans would solve that problem almost instantly. Still, situations like this are never simple. The Buccaneers may still prefer to keep Evans in Tampa if they can reach an agreement that works for both sides. Franchise icon can complicate even the strongest partnerships. Salary cap considerations, contract length, and roster priorities all play a role in these negotiations. Sometimes teams and players simply reach a point where exploring other options becomes necessary. That's why free agency can create unexpected opportunities. Even if Evans ultimately returns to Tampa Bay, the mere possibility that he could leave forces teams around the league to evaluate whether they should make a move. Front offices begin calculating cap space, studying roster needs, and determining how aggressive they're willing to be. For Cleveland, the timing could actually line up perfectly. The Browns are in a position where improving the offense is a clear priority, and adding a proven playmaker would immediately change how defenses prepare for them. A veteran like Evans could bring leadership, production, and credibility to a receiver group that has been searching for stability. Of course, nothing is guaranteed yet. Free agency rumors often move quickly and situations can change overnight. Other teams could enter the race, contract negotiations could shift, and the Buccaneers could still find a way to keep their longtime star. But one thing is certain. If Evans truly becomes available, the market for him will be massive, and the Browns appear to be watching very closely. If the Cleveland Browns were somehow able to land Mike Evans, the impact on their offense wouldn't just be noticeable. It could completely reshape how opposing defenses prepare for Cleveland every single week. Right now, the Browns' offense has talent, but it lacks a clear centerpiece in the passing game. Defenses don't necessarily have to game plan around one dominant receiver who consistently demands double coverage. Instead, they can spread their focus across multiple players and adjust coverage more freely. That changes the moment a receiver like Evans steps onto the field. For over a decade, Evans has built a reputation as one of the most physically dominant wide receivers in football. Standing around 6'5" and over 230 pounds, he presents matchup problems that defensive backs simply aren't built to handle consistently. Smaller cornerbacks struggle to contest passes in the air, while safeties often arrive too late to stop his ability to win jump ball situations. Because of that, defenses frequently have to shift coverage toward Evans. That means safety help over the top, bracket coverage in the red zone, or defensive schemes designed specifically to limit his opportunities. And when defenses focus that much attention on one receiver, something important happens. Other players start finding space. If Evans became Cleveland's primary target, it would immediately create more room for the rest of the receiving core. Secondary receivers would face more favorable one-on-one matchups. Slot receivers would find softer coverage in the middle of the field. Even tight ends could benefit from linebackers being pulled toward outside threats. That ripple effect is one of the biggest reasons elite wide receivers are so valuable. But the impact wouldn't stop there. Adding Evans could also play a major role in the development of Shedeur Sanders if he becomes a central figure in the Browns' offense. Young quarterbacks often perform better when they have a dependable veteran target who can make difficult catches and adjust to imperfect throws. Evans has built his career on doing exactly that. Quarterbacks have long trusted him in high-pressure moments, particularly near the goal line. His ability to use his body to shield defenders and high-point the football makes him one of the most reliable red zone weapons in the league. For Cleveland, that could solve one of the quiet issues the team has faced in recent seasons, turning drives into touchdowns instead of field goals. A receiver with Evans' size and experience gives offensive coordinators more options in scoring situations. Fade routes, back shoulder throws, and contested catches suddenly become realistic strategies rather than risky gambles. And then there's the experience factor. Evans isn't just productive, he's also a Super Bowl champion who has spent years competing at the highest level. That kind of veteran presence can influence an entire locker room, especially among younger receivers still developing their professional habits. Players watch how veterans prepare, study film, and approach big moments. That leadership aspect can be just as valuable as the production on the field. Of course, building an offense around a player like Evans would require the Browns to commit significant resources. Elite wide receivers rarely come cheap, and any team pursuing him would likely need to offer a substantial contract. But if Cleveland believes its offense is only that player happens to be Mike Evans, the transformation could happen faster than many people expect. Even as rumors swirl about the Mike Evans potentially joining the Cleveland Browns, there's another conversation happening around the team that refuses to disappear. And it centers on the quarterback position. Specifically, the debate surrounding Shedeur Sanders. Ever since Sanders became part of Cleveland's long-term plans, analysts and fans have been divided on one key question. Is he already capable of leading an NFL offense, or does he still need the right environment to succeed? Some critics have been quick to question whether Sanders can immediately handle the pressure that comes with running a franchise offense. The NFL is an entirely different level from college football. Defenses are faster, coverages are more complex, and mistakes are punished much more aggressively. Because of that, every young quarterback faces scrutiny early in their career. Sanders has been no exception. Certain commentators have pointed to Cleveland's offensive inconsistency as evidence that the quarterback position remains a concern. When drives stall or big plays don't develop, the conversation often shifts toward whether the quarterback is reading defenses quickly enough or delivering the ball with the timing the offense requires. But not everyone agrees with that narrative. In fact, a growing group of analysts believe the issue might not be the quarterback at all. Instead, they argue that Sanders simply hasn't had the level of support that young quarterbacks typically need to flourish. In today's NFL, many teams build their offenses specifically to help rookie or developing quarterbacks succeed. That usually means surrounding them with experienced playmakers who can make life easier when plays break down. Reliable receivers who run precise routes. Veteran targets who can win contested catches. Playmakers who create separation quickly. Right now, some observers believe Cleveland's offense hasn't fully provided that kind of support system yet. That's why the potential addition of a receiver like Evans has become such a fascinating part of this debate. If Sanders were suddenly throwing passes to a receiver with Evans' experience and reliability, it would change the evaluation of the offense almost overnight. Evans has spent years helping quarterbacks succeed by turning difficult throws into completions. His size alone makes him one of the safest targets in contested situations. Throw the ball high, and there's a strong chance Evans comes down with it. That kind of safety blanket can dramatically improve a young quarterback's confidence. Instead of hesitating on tight window throws, quarterbacks become more willing to trust their receivers. Confidence leads to rhythm. Rhythm leads to production. And production often silences criticism. Of course, none of this guarantees that the quarterback debate would disappear completely. In the NFL, scrutiny follows the position no matter what. Even elite quarterbacks face questions when their teams struggle. But if Cleveland were able to surround Sanders with stronger offensive weapons, it would at least clarify the situation. Because if the offense improves with better support, the narrative shifts. Suddenly, the conversation isn't about whether the quarterback is the problem. Instead, it becomes about whether the Browns have finally built the right environment for him to succeed. And if that happens, the entire trajectory of Cleveland's offense could change very quickly. Behind every major roster move in the NFL, there's a decision-maker balancing risk, pressure, and expectations. For the Cleveland Browns, that responsibility falls on general manager Andrew Berry. And right now, Berry might be entering one of the most important off-seasons of his tenure. Over the past few seasons, the Browns have assembled a roster that many believe should already be competing at a higher level. There is talent across multiple positions, and the team has invested heavily in building a competitive core. But as every NFL fan knows, talent on paper doesn't always translate into success on the field. That's where the pressure begins. When a team shows flashes of potential but struggles to deliver consistent results, attention quickly turns toward the front office. Fans start questioning roster construction. Analysts debate whether the right players are being prioritized, and every offseason decision suddenly carries even more weight. Barry understands that reality. One of the biggest challenges facing Cleveland this year is deciding exactly where to invest its resources. Free agency always presents opportunities, but it also forces teams to make difficult choices about how they allocate their salary cap. This is where the Browns' internal discussions reportedly become especially interesting. According to various analysts and insiders, Cleveland's leadership has been focusing on a very direct question when evaluating potential signings. Does this player help us score points and win games? It sounds simple, but in practice, that question can dramatically shape how a roster is built. For example, some fans have debated whether the Browns should prioritize expensive offensive line additions during free agency. Elite linemen can protect the quarterback and open running lanes, but they also command massive contracts that consume a large portion of the salary cap. In some cases, top-tier centers can earn salaries approaching $20–25 million per year. For a front office, that creates a difficult dilemma. Do you invest heavily in protection and infrastructure, or do you focus on adding explosive playmakers who directly influence the scoreboard? That debate has quietly become one of the defining strategic questions facing Cleveland this offseason. And this is moments. In other words, he's the type of addition that clearly answers Barry's internal question. Does this player help us score points? With Evans, the answer is obvious. Still, the situation is that straightforward. Free agency negotiations involve far more than identifying talent. Contracts, age considerations, long-term planning, and competition from other teams all play a role in determining whether a deal is actually possible. And there's another layer to this story that has sparked curiosity among some fans. During previous events like the NFL Combine and media availability sessions, Barry has occasionally mentioned certain players or positions in ways that analysts later interpreted as strategic misdirection. Some observers believe front offices sometimes float certain names publicly to influence the market or distract other teams. Of course, those interpretations remain speculation. Front offices rarely reveal their true intentions during the offseason, and Barry has developed a reputation for keeping Cleveland's plans closely guarded. That secrecy makes it difficult to know exactly which players the Browns are truly targeting. But one thing is clear. This offseason represents a critical moment for Cleveland's leadership. The decisions made over the next few weeks could determine whether the Browns' offense finally takes a significant step forward, or whether the team continues searching for the right formula. And if Barry decides to take a major swing in free agency, it could send a powerful signal about how aggressively Cleveland plans to reshape its future. As the rumors continue to circulate around Mike Evans and the Cleveland Browns, one thing is becoming increasingly clear. This situation could end up shaping how Cleveland's entire season is viewed. Right now, nothing is official. Reports linking Evans to the Browns remain speculation, and free agency situations can change quickly. Teams enter negotiations, new bidders emerge, and contract talks sometimes resolve faster than anyone expects. But even the possibility of Evans becoming available has already started a much bigger conversation around Cleveland's offense. Because for the Browns, this isn't just about adding another wide receiver. It's about solving one of the team's most persistent questions: who is the true offensive leader on the outside? For years, Cleveland has tried to assemble a wide receiver group capable of carrying the passing game. There have been talented players, promising moments, and occasional breakout performances. Yet the offense has rarely featured the type of dominant receiving presence that forces opposing defenses to completely reshape their game plan. That's exactly what a player like Evans provides. Throughout his career with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Evans has built a reputation for consistency. Season after season, regardless of quarterback changes or coaching adjustments, he has continued producing elite numbers. That level of reliability is incredibly valuable for teams trying to stabilize an offense. And for a developing quarterback like Shedeur Sanders, having a veteran receiver of Evans' caliber could change the entire dynamic of the passing attack. Young quarterbacks often benefit from having a dependable target who can handle duty. That experience matters. Veteran players who have performed on the biggest stages often bring a calming influence to an offense. They understand defensive adjustments, they know how to create separation when plays break down, and they can help guide younger teammates through the weekly grind of an NFL season. For Cleveland, that type of leadership could be just as important as the statistical production. Of course, landing a player like Evans would not automatically solve every issue the Browns face. Football is too complex for a single addition to fix everything. Offensive lines must protect the quarterback, play calling must remain effective, and chemistry between players takes time to develop. Still, certain players can accelerate progress. A proven star receiver forces defenses to make difficult choices, double cover him and other receivers find space. Leave him in single coverage and he becomes a major threat for explosive plays. That ripple effect is why elite wide receivers can transform entire offensive systems. But there's another possibility worth considering. The Browns might pursue Evans and still come up short. Free agency rarely unfolds in a straight line. Multiple teams may offer contracts, negotiations could extend for days, and the final decision ultimately rests with the player. Evans could choose to remain. If that happens, Cleveland would need to continue exploring other options to strengthen the offense. Either way, the next phase of the offseason could reveal a lot about how aggressively the Browns plan to reshape their roster. If Cleveland truly enters the race for Evans, it signals a clear intention to surround its offense with proven playmakers. It would also demonstrate confidence in the direction the team is heading under new leadership. And if the move actually happens, the impact could extend far beyond one signing. It could redefine expectations for the Browns heading into the season, shifting the conversation from rebuilding potential to legitimate offensive momentum. For now, the situation remains uncertain. But sometimes the biggest stories in the NFL begin with nothing more than a rumor. And if this one turns out to be real, Cleveland might be much closer to a major offensive transformation than anyone expected.